Touch the leg and welcome to Tibet This Week, a weekly news edition on Tibet, His Holiness the Dalai Lama and Central Tibetan Administration. Let's have a look at today's headlines. His Holiness the Dalai Lama visit to Sikkim and Salugara postponed. His Holiness congratulates Nobel Peace Prize winner Narges Mohammadi. Latin America can do more to help advance Tibetan cause given its position with China, Sikyong Penpa Tsering in Mexico. Speaker Khenpo Sonam Tenphel addresses 53rd founding anniversary of Tibetan Youth Congress. Delegation of Australia-Tibet Council visits Tibetan Parliament-in-Exile. PRM delegation visits Tibetan Parliament-in-Exile. Founders of Global Political Party at last visit Tibetan Parliament-in-Exile. Chinese Liaison Officer Tsultrim Gyatso attends seminar with pro-democratic Chinese in New York. Bharat-Tibet Sikyong Manch North Regional Chapter commemorates Silver Jubilee. Representative Genkhang pays courtesy call on Mayor of Watermael-Boitsfort. TPI holds 5th Young Indian Research Scholars Conference on Tibetan Studies. On Sunday last week, in a notice sent out from the Office of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, the office has postponed His Holiness the Dalai Lama's scheduled visit to Gangtok and Salugara from October 16 to 22nd due to the recent disaster in Sikkim caused by floods. His Holiness offered his prayers to the people and state of Sikkim for their focus on the state machinery in relief efforts. On the same day, His Holiness departed for New Delhi for a routine medical checkup and returned to Dharamshala with a rousing welcome on Thursday morning. Hundreds of Tibetans and devotees thronged the streets to pay obeisance to His Holiness. On Saturday, His Holiness the Dalai Lama wrote a letter to Mrs. Narges Mohammadi to congratulate her on being awarded this year's Nobel Peace Prize in recognition of her courageous campaign for human rights, freedom and equality. In the letter, His Holiness expressed his belief that the award of this Nobel Peace Prize is also in recognition of the vital role women play in each of us life from the moment we were born. On Friday last week, Sikyong Penpa Tsering, during his official visit to Latin America, addressed the National University of Colombia on the theme of Exiles and Displacements, Interdisciplinary Reflections. Following which, he visited the Yamantaka Center and held a brief meeting with its members. In his final engagement in the capital, Sikyong participated in an inter-religious dialogue engaging with esteemed religious heads representing over 8 diverse traditions, which included a representative each from the Interior Minister of the Government of Colombia and the District Religious Freedom Office, Bogota. Sikyong Penpa Tsering concluded his 2-day official visit to Bogota, Colombia on Saturday last week, marking a series of impactful engagements with think tanks, the prestigious National University of Colombia, religious heads representing an array of diverse traditions, as well as engaging with members of civil society, deepening the discourse around Tibet and Sino-Tibet conflict at the heart of Latin America. On Saturday last week, Sikyong flew to Mexico City, Mexico, to embark on the third and final leg of his tour in Latin America. Sikyong was accorded a traditional Mexican welcome at the airport by Deputy Salvador Caro Cabrera, a distinguished member of the Mexican Parliament and the president of the group of legislators Friends of Tibet, a parliamentary group for Tibet in the Mexican Congress. Along with him were representatives from the Tibet support groups and longtime friends of Tibetan cause, gathering from every corner of Mexico. In his first official engagement, Sikyong visited the Loseling Center in Mexico City, led by its spiritual master, Geshe Sherab Chömbel. At arrival, Sikyong, along with Deputy Caro Salvador, was graciously greeted by Abbot of Debung Loseling Monastery, Monkot Khen Rinpoche, Geshe Lobsang Samden, Geshe Samden Chumbel, Venerable Doji, and Dr. Lobsang Tenzin Negi, Executive Director, Center for Contemplative Science and Compassion-Based Ethics at Emory University. On Monday this week, during an invitation to speak on the prevailing situation inside Tibet at the Universitat Autónoma Metropolitana, one of Mexico's premier universities, Sikyong Tsering said that the Latin America can help more in advancing the Tibetan cause given their position as a key factor vis-a-vis China. At the invitation of Deputy Chairman, Sikyong was offered an exclusive tour of the Trilas Publishing House and Casa Lam Cultural Centers. Sikyong engaged in a moving discussion with the students of the House of Tibet, where he spoke on the topic, the Dalai Lama's reincarnation and its impact on religious freedom, a case study of Tibet-China relations. A day before, on Monday, Sikyong held a strategic meeting with the longtime friends of Tibet and prominent Tibet support groups. On Tuesday this week, Sikyong Tsering was ceremoniously welcomed and acknowledged in the chambers of Mexican Parliament, comprising 500 MPs, in the esteemed presence of the Vice President Deputy Carla Almanzan. Member of the Mexican Parliament, Deputy Salvador Caro, introduced Sikyong Tsering and extended a warm welcome on his maiden official visit to Mexico. Deputy Caro fervently voiced unwavering support for the just cause of Tibet, representing the collective voice of the legislators, Friends of Tibet. Sikyong Tsering's visit inside the chambers was preceded by another profound moment, a declaration of an official communique by Vice President Deputy Joan Alejandra Felipe Torres, unprecedented on behalf of the Mexican Parliament, solidifying the Parliament's official stance on Tibet. Addressing the deputies, Sikyong Tsering urged the group to institutionalize and organize parliamentary support, ensuring its long-term commitment to the Tibetan cause. He highlighted Mexico's pivotal role as the gateway to Latin America and encouraged proactive measures to raise awareness and garner meaningful support across Latin America. On Saturday last week, Speaker Khenpo Sonam Tenphel spoke at the 53rd founding anniversary of the Tibetan Youth Congress as the chief guest held at the Tibetan Institute of Performing Arts. Addressing the celebration, the speaker congratulated the TYC on its 53rd founding day and applauded its undertaking and shouldering of responsibilities in the community as one of the biggest Tibetan non-governmental organizations based in India with a systemic structural setup and chapters across the world. As part of Australia-Tibet Council's Little Tibet Tour, a delegation of ATC led by its Executive Director, Dr. Watermael-Boitsfort, visited the Tibetan Parliament-in-Exile and met with Speaker Khenpo Sonam Tenphel, Deputy Speaker Genkhang, and members of the Standing Committee on 5th October. Welcoming the members of the ATC, the Speaker and the Deputy Speaker lauded them for their commendable work in advocating Tibet over the past 35 years and extended his heartfelt gratitude to the members. The Bureau of Population, Refugees and Migration (PRM) delegation visited the Tibetan Parliament-in-Exile on Friday last week. The PRM delegation met with Speaker Khenpo Sonam Tenphel and Deputy Speaker Genkhang for discussion over the process of proposing and sanctioning the CTA's budget and its implementation at the grassroots levels. On Tuesday this week, Andrea Wenzon and Colombe Cahen Salvador, founders of Atlas, a global political party, visited the Tibetan Parliament-in-Exile and had an extensive discussion on democracy, current situation in Tibet and ecological threats of global warming with the significance of Tibetan Plateau with the Speaker and Deputy Speaker of the Tibetan Parliament-in-Exile. Atlas is a global political party aiming to unite people worldwide to create a freer, better and more equitable planet. With 24,000 supporters in over 134 countries, the Atlas, after years of grassroots activism, announced becoming a global political party on 15 September 2023. The Chinese liaison officer of the Office of Tibet in Washington, D.C., Tsultrim Gyatso, attended the seminar held in New York by a group of Chinese pro-democratic groups to discourse on the cross-strait situation and its prospect on 7th and 8th October. Participants of the seminar shared their opinions and suggestions on issues regarding the shifting worldwide political landscape, current economic and political changes inside China, and strategizing campaigns with regard to these changes. The two-day seminar was jointly organized by China Democratic League, Beijing Spring, June 4th Memorial Museum, and the Democracy Party of China. Several prominent Chinese pro-democrats and intellectuals took part in the seminar. The North Regional Conference commemorating the Silver Jubilee of Bharat-Tibet Sahyog Manch convened at Chandigarh's Law Bhavan on October 6. Additional Secretary Tenzin Lekshe expounded upon the India-Tibet relationships and the inevitable responsibility of the government and people of India to support the Tibetan cause. In his address, Sri R.K. Krimeji recalled the 1962 war, asserting that India in 2023 stands as a robust nation capable of addressing China on its own terms. Sardar Harjit Singh Grewal, National Executive Member of the BTSM, characterized China as an expansionist threat to peaceful democratic nations across the world. On Wednesday this week, Oliver Deleuze, Mayor of Watermael-Boitsfort, hosted Representative Rinzin Chuden Genkhang for a meeting in his office. During the meeting, Representative Genkhang expressed gratitude to the mayor for hoisting the Tibetan national flag banned in Tibet at his town hall on 10 March, every year in a show of solidarity with Tibet and the Tibetan people. Deleuze is a former Minister of Energy in the federal government and the founding member of the Ecolo, the Belgian Green Party. He has been the mayor of his municipality since 2012. The Tibet Policy Institute of Central Tibetan Administration held the 5th edition of the Young Indian Research Scholars Conference on Tibetan Studies at Sara College of Higher Tibetan Studies from 6 to 7 October. Mr. Kama Chuing, the Secretary of the Department of Information and International Relations, addressed the gathering during the inaugural session. The conference aims to provide a platform for Indian scholars researching on Tibet and the Himalayas to present their research findings. Around 20 Indian scholars from different parts of the country presented their research findings on Tibet during the two-day conference. That is all the news for this week's edition of Tibet This Week. Thank you for watching Tibettv.